close your eyes if you'd like. Breathe in and out. In and out. In and out. Breathe in and take in the calm. Breathe out and let go of the hitches and struggles. Breathe in and take in all the joy that you can imagine. Breathe out as if you are blowing bubbles, watching them slowly whirl around you. Continue to imagine yourself blowing bubbles and watching them rise into your cloudy blue sky with trees and hills and mountains. Take in the smells of summer, the fresh green grass, and the flowers. Take in the sounds of your neighbors, the animals, and the breeze. And as you find your peace, imagine all your senses taking in spirit. See all the majestic beauty around you, like the turning of a kaleidoscope on an ever-changing light of the sun. Feel the dry, cool air emanating energy and exciting your soul. And then the sound of the birds transforming to the still, small voice in the silence. In the silence. In the silence. As you slowly find your way around to this realm, know you are well and whole and at peace in who you are. And so it is. This book is the Four Agreements. Apparently, I forgot to say that in the first service. I had read this book when it was a while ago, 35 years ago probably. Was at a Unity church, and I read it, and it's flowery language. I don't know why that's hard to say. Kind of threw me off, and I wasn't used to reading self-help books that were so flowery. And so I didn't click in until I was also working as a volunteer in a recovery place, teaching the guys who didn't know how to read with this book. It's not ideal, but it did serve two purposes. The guys needed to find a way to work with their addiction besides the 12 steps. And this was a practical outline. And at that point, when I started taking it apart paragraph by paragraph, it became important to me. So, our words, I love to point at stuff. Our words are our reality. I never realized that until I read this book. I always thought words were just words. Maybe not. Anyway, I didn't think it affected my reality. Be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. In the beginning of Don Miguel Ruiz's book, there's a story. And I'm going to read, I don't usually do this, but I'm going to read the whole darn story. 3,000 years ago, there was a human just like you and me who lived near a city surrounded by mountains. The human was studying to become a medicine man, to learn the knowledge of his ancestors. But he didn't agree with everything he was learning. In his heart, he felt there must be something more. One day, as he slept in a cave, he dreamed he saw his own body sleeping. He came out of the cave on the night of the new moon. The sky was clear, and he could see millions of stars. Then something happened inside him that transformed his life forever. He looked at his hands. He felt his body. And he heard his voice say, I am made of light. I am made of stars. He looked at the stars again and realized that it's not the stars that create the light, but the light that creates the stars. Everything is made of light, he said, and the space in between is not empty. And he knew that everything that exists is one living being, the messenger of life, because it is alive and contains all information. That is what he discovered. Everything in existence is a manifestation of the one living being we call God. And he came to the conclusion that human perception is merely light perceiving light. He also saw that matter is a mirror. Everything is a mirror that reflects light and creates images of that light. And, like Plato, the world of illusion. The dream, if you will. It is just like smoke, which does not allow us to see what we really are. The real us is pure love and pure light. So, not Don Miguel's words. We all grow up with others' words to guide and control us. We all had adults who helped form us into what we are. How did they know what was right for us? Where did all those rules come from? We did our best to follow those rules, or in some cases, react and reject them. Still, that leaves us in control of those worlds. We wanted to be loved and rewarded rather than unloved and punished. We were judged by our parents, our teachers, our ministers, our peers, the community, and others. We inherently made agreements for ourselves from our perceptions. A book of law, if you will. We internalized these agreements from our parents, our culture, and religion. We were told what success was. We were told what love was. We were told what was right and wrong. This is what Ruiz calls the dream of the planet. So, all of the influences around us that set up our agreements become the dream of the planet. It's based on fear. Fear of not being accepted by those we love or by others who are important to us. All of us have longings and ideas that do not fit or feel right in the light of the book of law that our culture offers. A lawyer's daughter may dream of being a fisherwoman. A mechanic's son may dream of being a college professor. Two sisters may want to start a construction company. Some find their souls in the arts, while others find their hearts in teaching. All of this may be against the dream of the planet, our society, or our religion. Maybe we comply and do what's expected. Maybe we break from the mold. Whichever we do contains pain and rejection. Either rejection of society or rejection of ourselves and our souls. As we listen to our souls, things can become confrontational, both internally and externally. Internally, the darker side of this is we become our own biggest judges. We internalize everything and become judge and jury on ourselves. No matter how harsh others judge us, we judge ourselves worse. We become victims not only of others, but ourselves. For me, I grew up in a Catholic family of 6 kids in the boonies, or those of you from the Chicago area, the super boonies. There was a weatherman who talked about the super boonies. Woodstock, Wonder Lake, that's where we were. My dad was a hard-working guy and was Protestant. He agreed to have as many children as would come. He was strict and did not tolerate any upset from us. We grew up in fear of him and his judgment. He believed that we should be able to do anything with our hands. My brothers did okay with this, becoming builders, mechanics, and salesmen. I was awkward and a little more attuned to the arts, but I tried to be what he wanted. I received a car as payment for babysitting. Yeah, that was a happy thing too. I failed to understand when changing the oil on that car what he meant when he sent me under the car with a 1/2-inch wrench to pull the plug for an oil change. Confused, I stated, "I don't see a plug, much less an outlet underneath here." And I asked, how was a 1/2-inch wrench going to help me? I cannot repeat what he said to me and my mother about masculinity, but I can tell you I knew I wasn't good enough. This repeated itself in many situations, leaving me separate not only from my dad, but my brothers who saw themselves better than me. My mother was a good Catholic woman involved in the church as a lector and the Altar and Rosary Society, which is now Lady Sodality, I've been informed. I fared a little bit better there, enjoying religious education and genuinely accepted to a point. Religion intrigued me. It activated my brain. However, I did not understand that was not a discussion, but an orthodoxy. I challenged my teachers and the nuns on things that did not make sense to me. It was made clear to me I was not allowed to question things I was told. I also disappointed my mother that I did not become a priest. Again, I was a failure. I had broken an unspoken agreement my family and religion and culture had for me. College was an affront to my dad because I had an offer to become a union plumber from my high school employer, who, by the way, was very happy I was going to college. I offer these stories not for sympathy, but to illustrate how the dream of the planet can be expressed. This is how I was formed. This is how you were formed. We don't escape the dreams that our parents, brothers and sisters, our religion, or our society have. How do we move forward? Be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. In the Gospel of John, the first words are, "In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and God was the Word." Not John. Through our words, we express our creative power and that which we manifest. Our words are pure magic. Misuse of our words is black magic. Integrity also means without sin, not the way we think of it. Sin, the definition I'm taking today, is anything that we do which goes against ourselves. Everything we feel or believe or say that goes against us. Self-rejection is our worst sin. When we are impeccable with our word, we are taking responsibility for our words, actions, and outcome. But we don't judge ourselves or blame ourselves. If I say I'm not very good at this, that's true. If I say I can't do this, I won't. My wife's favorite saying from Yoda is do or do not. There is no try. Yoda and my wife use that to let us, know that if we give ourselves a chance to fail, it is more likely we will. We will either do it or we will not do it. The same when we allow others to define the rules for our lives. We need to encompass the completed picture and proceed. This is when our words become magic. They're spells. They can be good, positive magic, white magic. Or they can become black magic. The tale is in whether our words are in the direction of truth and love. Myrtle Fillmore is is an example of someone who created her own reality and healed herself through the prayer and intent. She and Charles, upon hearing of Myrtle's having apparently only 6 months to live because of her illnesses, went to see a practitioner of New Thought named Dr. Weeks. They were illuminated by something he said. I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit illness. It took a year until she was completely healed. She used the affirmation that she was a child of God. She lived in prayer and connection to Spirit. Prayer and meditation was the lead for her spell casting. She also took action in line with her words of healing. I presume she didn't curse her affliction, but I am sure there were days that her belief was shaken, feeling unheard in her prayers. Mother Teresa helped thousands and thousands as she went through a 30-year drought in feeling connected to Spirit. Mother Teresa's a little controversial nowadays, but she did pray and meditated to the silence and kept working on what her last words she heard were. Clearly, Myrtle Fillmore went on to help others with this style of saying, I am a child of God. I have a friend who says that Myrtle was healed because she went outside and ate good food and did unknowingly the right things. The truth is, her word allowed her to be in the outdoor air, allowed her to be eating the right things, allowed her to do the things that she needed to do to heal. She was still spell casting, regardless that it could have been in addition to prayer. It was intent. Think of the people you know and the things they have accomplished for years. What does it take to have that kind of power in our lives? How do we create our lives? I tell you, we do create our lives, whether or not we are conscious of it. If we get up every morning as an obligation and automaton our way through the day, we likely create a must do this to do that and do this to do that life without reflection. If we add a little reflection and some gratefulness, we can change the dreary into I am grateful. Being grateful is a choice. If we examine our thoughts and words, we can notice our direction. If I feel tired, and even say, I am tired, I am allowing myself to be less than. If I feel tired, but I am grateful, and note perhaps I'm going to be okay today, my attitude and outcome will change. My focus will be positive. How do we begin to reflect on how we think about our lives? You may have heard this before. Meditate. Be conscious. Get a journal, even if you don't read it. Examine your outcomes. Prioritize. What do we see? Are we creating our best lives? Is there progress? What works? What doesn't? Then recast our spell. refocus away from the judgment. The other four agreements help to keep your creations, your lives, in focus. Tell the truth when you know it. Correct yourself when you're not right and keep going. Stephen Covey has the 7 Habits series of books, but the first one was 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. They were a little too focused on money and business for my taste, but that's where I read the book. That was a training seminar. That's probably, if you know the book, where you read it. What not everybody got from that book is it's about focus. They're about reflection and priorities. It sets a time for us to connect to the one. Meditation and quiet allow us to listen to Spirit. It allows us to be guided by our inner voice. I listened yesterday as people spoke about their thoughts for the education building, the parking lots, and the fountain memory garden. In a conversation, I said, what if somebody donates $1 million this week? So I was in the mind of we couldn't do something because there might not be enough money. Limiting my thoughts. My friend said someone has donated $1 million. That threw me because it wasn't in my imagination. He was already thinking and creating and making things happen. I don't know if we have $1 million or not. I don't know if he's creating it, and that's not the point. He looked for the solution that would help all of that. I was humbled. I realized I could be thinking with no limit instead of my off-the-cuff limiting. My wife catches me at that all the time. And she's not here. I get a poke for that. So, what have I created for myself? Knowing it was going to happen in high school, I started writing songs because I knew I could. I went to college with little financial backing, but I knew in second grade I was going to college. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college. I made an album of music, and I did change the muffler on my car after my dad called me names when I was a kid. I became a counselor after my wife said I could. It was never occurred to me, but she saw that somehow I often connected with people and that I could be of service. I still perform music regularly at 68. Now, in this town, that's not a big deal. But in most towns, it is. I have a friend over there, you're 77. He plays more music than I do. Her dad, Angela's dad, and my good friend, he plays 3 to 4 times a week. I don't know where he does it, but he's playing all the time. So this is an anomaly in this town, is people who don't play music. I have a wife and children who know, despite my challenges, know I love them. I created that, and if you will, co-created that. It's hard to discuss that because I don't think we're really separate, so who's the co-pilot? Well, I'm going to suggest I'm the co-pilot because something is pushing me to do this stuff. Ron Santo, a bass player for the Chicago Cubs, had type 1 diabetes. And he learned that at 16 or 17, but never thought for 1 minute he wasn't going to be a baseball player. He played 25 years. He has some records. He wasn't the best third baseman in the world, but he made himself a baseball player. My wife survived a troubled marriage. I didn't have anything to do with the troubled marriage. It just raised 3 children because that was it. That's what she had to do. She sings and writes the most beautiful songs. She paints and writes poems. Her words are, I am an artist. Look at the person next to you. Regardless of the troubles they may have, what did they create themselves to be? Now look in your own heart. Look past being a victim. How are you creating? So the dark side of spells is black magic, or as I like to call it, gossip, which I am way, way above. Gossip is like the blue screen of death to your computer. It is a virus. It is a poison that I take to hurt you. It diminishes the I am. It is Gollum and his ring. It is a slow death. Before I finish, I want to read the other agreements. Don't take anything personally. Yeah, really, really easy there. I'm just going to go. We'll just get through that. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be a victim to needless suffering. Still working on that one. Don't make assumptions. There's another one. We love to make stuff up. If we have A and C, we're definitely making up B to figure out how someone could get. We do that. That's part. It's saved our lives when we were cave people. You know, if we saw bear turds, we knew that was not a good place to be. And we found another place to be, even though we didn't know the bear was there. So, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. And the last one in this edition of the book is always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstances, simply do your best, and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. So, what is the question for this week? What am I creating? What will it take to make my life connected? Let's take a moment in prayer. Dear Lord, we come to you and we are grateful, joyful people, open to all possibilities. We are guided by the love that is ever present and the peace we hear when we listen to the still, small voice. We speak ourselves into wonder-filled existence. We pray to the one to be ourselves. We surround each other in belief and love, and we let go of all else. And so it is.